Every day, 2 million of us take off and land somewhere in America. 600 million passengers boarded a flight last year, and the number is expected to surpass 1 billion this decade. The sky has no limits, but the ground does. As airports struggle to keep up with the pace, the anxiety of flying increases. Although flying remains the safest mode of transportation, thousands of times safer than car travel, there are no small air accidents. Most cost lives. Logan Airport, October 12, 2000, 8 a.m. Bound for Chicago, Flight 123 takes off over Boston Harbor. In less than a minute, it will disappear from the radar screen.
Eagle Airlines 123, carrying 120 passengers, departure on 50 right to Chicago.
Aircraft crashed in the water approximately 1 mile off. All units responding.
Coast Guard divers begin the search for survivors. At the airport, a command center is set up.
Well, the plane is in this area, so the whole area here is closed off.
Jet fuel is a primary concern, although that's going to evaporate faster than it can be boomed off.
Shut down Day Boulevard, the South Boston area, to get emergency vehicles or personnel over here to Logan Airport through the tunnel.
You have a number there, I can get the incident commander on the phone with the medical examiner.
I'll find out. All right.
The Navy ship Grapple, a veteran of many deep-sea salvage operations, is on the scene.
I'm calling to check to see if debris has been taken yet.
The first wreckage arrives on shore.
We do have several airline personnel and American Red Cross on scene, and we will be transitioning that Family Assistance Center over to the airline once they're able to get all their national resources and assets in place.
Fortunately, it's only a drill. Every major airport conducts similar exercises in preparation for the disaster they hope they will never see.
We have to practice. We have to keep sharp. We have to keep ready to prepare and be able to respond in an appropriate manner when these things happen.
It happened on July 17, 1996. TWA Flight 800, en route from New York to Paris, burst into flames off the coast of Long Island. A terrorist attack was the first assumption. Eyewitnesses claimed to have seen a missile in the sky. All 230 people on board this Boeing 747 were killed. In an unprecedented 18-month recovery effort, investigators salvaged thousands of pieces of wreckage from the ocean and assembled the 747 fuselage. Boeing engineers, airline pilots, NTSB, and FBI experts used it to solve the puzzle of what brought down TWA Flight 800.
The explosion that broke apart the airplane occurred in this center wing tank, which is this area that goes from approximately here forward to right up in here, the area of the forward spar. This center wing fuel tank is the size of a 2-car garage. We knew that the airplane had been sitting at the airport for a number of hours in a very, very warm day. The temperatures were, I believe, in the upper 80 degrees.
Located under the center fuel tank of the Boeing 747 were 2 air conditioners cooling the aircraft as it awaited takeoff.
It is our belief that putting a device that can produce heat into the bottom of a fuel tank, under a fuel tank, makes no sense when you have a petroleum-based fuel in that tank.
The fuel in the tank vaporized under the heat generated by the air conditioners. The theory was that a short circuit channeled excessive voltage into the tank igniting the vapor. Unfortunately, investigators did not find evidence of faulty wiring, so the precise mechanism of the explosion remains a mystery. At Boeing, the goal is to build a perfect aircraft. With 626,000 parts fastened together by 600,000 bolts and rivets, a new 757 is being assembled. This twin-engine jet will carry up to 239 passengers. Its loaded weight of 250,000 pounds is comparable to a train locomotive, but it moves considerably faster, 550 miles per hour. It has to survive strenuous mid-air engine stall tests, sudden altitude drops, steep climb takeoffs, and emergency braking. The customer for this 757 is American Transair. The buyer and the seller have a full day to inspect the plane. Joe Akers is Boeing's quality controller.
Have a bit of an oil leak up here. This drain line.
Ken Kaiser represents ATA.
I'll get him to fix this.
Together, they look for the smallest oil leak or loose electrical connection, which could jeopardize the safety of the aircraft.
Don't see any metal shavings down in here in the Dynatol or anything. All the bolts have a good threads exposed.
Captain Bruce Jacobs came to ferry the new aircraft to Chicago, where it will pick up its first passengers. The 757 is among the safest aircraft ever built. Redundancy is the key.
Everything we see is generally electrically powered, and any time that source fails, there is always another redundant source to power the same instrument. We have 5 sources of electrical power that'll power the whole aircraft. We have to get ourselves prepared every takeoff. It can never be routine, and be ready for the possibility of an engine failure, or having to stop the aircraft on the runway, or continue the takeoff if we're beyond a certain speed on a single engine.
ATA customer inspection of the new 757 is finished. Now the deal will culminate with an expensive handshake.
And here we have the bill of sale.
The price is $60 million.
The next thing is the aircraft receipt.
Each of the 2 engines, $5 million apiece.
And the last thing is to present you with the cockpit key. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Pilots marvel at the perfection of these flying machines. But aircraft technology is only one link in the chain of air safety. On October 31, 2000, a typhoon rolled into Taipei, the capital of Taiwan. During takeoff, Singapore Airlines Flight 006 turned onto a closed runway, struck a concrete barrier, and barreled ahead at more than 150 miles per hour into a construction site, where it hit an excavator and other heavy equipment. Passengers felt 2 violent bumps. Then they saw objects inside the cabin moving in all directions. When the plane ground to a halt, many seats were gone. The plane burst into flames and broke apart into 3 sections. 83 of the 179 people on board were killed. The plane's cockpit voice recorder confirmed that Singapore 6 was cleared by the tower to take off from runway 05 left, and the pilot was heard repeating the instruction. A minute later, he said he could see the runway. But Captain Fung was looking at runway 05 right, which was being repaired. To indicate they're out of use, closed runways are marked with a big cross, but there was none, investigators established.
See what he's outside.
Yeah.
Experts from the National Transportation Safety Board and Boeing arrive in Taipei. Investigators are at a loss to explain how Captain Fung, with more than 10,000 hours of flying experience, and who had flown from Taipei Airport 10 times before, could have made this deadly error.
It slid to one side, hydroplane, and part of it hit this culvert, which made it slide around in the other direction at a portion during this sequence. Pieces are coming off the aircraft, engines are coming off, landing gear is spreading itself. All these things end up on the runway, and in addition to that, this aircraft is loaded with fuel enough to fly over to JFK, so the main tanks are full and they get punctured, and this fuel starts to ignite because of the sparks along the runway with the various pieces of the aircraft sliding along the runway and igniting this fuel.
We may never know why the pilot of Flight 006 made a wrong turn at Taipei International Airport. But investigators are analyzing the post-crash fire that took 83 lives and are trying to learn from it.
On the other side of the runway, you can see the aft section of the 747, the empennage, basically, to include the vertical fin, and some people actually were in there at the time of the crash and were rescued. Since I was involved in the TWA 800 investigation, I was interested in seeing what happened to the center tank in this particular accident, but it's hardly recognizable. The fire was so intense that it melted a lot of it.
Half a world away at the Federal Aviation Administration lab in Atlantic City, Gus Sorkos dreams about a fireproof aircraft.
Temperatures in that flame are 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a very intense fire. This simulates a post-crash fire involving jet fuel.
His focus is on the insulation used in the cabin walls, the protective barrier between fire and lives. A newly developed insulation is subjected to flames. How much time will passengers have to be evacuated before the fire burns through the layer of insulation?
We expect that this material will prevent a fire from burning through for a minimum of 4 minutes. And if you combine that time with the additional protection provided by the aluminum skin and the sidewalls, this is more than adequate time for all people to evacuate in the event of a post-crash fire for almost any conceivable situation.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes, 20 seconds now.
This material here for more than 5 minutes has prevented flame penetration. This is more than enough to be effective in any type of post-crash fire situation. So this would be the type of material that could be used as a burn-through barrier.
6:15 right now.
It's absolutely amazing.
Back in Taipei, experts turn to questions of survival. Their focus is on the rear section of the cabin, not affected by the fire.
A upper was failed, B upper was failed, and C lower was failed.
During the impact, the overhead storage bins came crashing down onto passengers sitting in the center aisle.
One of the passengers that I interviewed said that he saw the bins coming down as they were impacting.
We would have expected the bins to be on that side of the galley, actually. But now they're on this side. It may have happened when they rolled it upright again.
The role of crash investigations is not only to find the cause of the accident, but also to suggest new directions in air safety research.
Any excess on this one's here. Any excess on this one's over here.
At the FAA Tech Center in Atlantic City, drop tests are performed to test improved overhead bin designs.
If we go much above 25 Gs, I expect that bin to fail. So it depends on the G level, whatever we achieve.
and this will probably be somewhere around 20-25 G.
The 10-foot fuselage section will be dropped from a height of 14 feet.
3, 2, 1.
The newly designed overhead bins stayed intact.
The instances where we've seen problems with overhead storage bins have been those kinds of crashes that were very, very severe. Matter of fact, they were at the limits of human survivability. But the fact remains, if people can survive the crash, they shouldn't be injured by anything within the aircraft that might injure them and come loose, stowage bins being one of those issues.
At the Oklahoma City FAA Civil Aeromedical Institute, another aspect of crash survival is tested. Dummies outfitted with electronic sensors are used to test the crash worthiness of seats. At impact, when passengers are strapped to their seats, surviving or avoiding injuries may depend on the seat's design. This test simulates a sudden impact at takeoff, similar to what happened in Taipei. By measuring the severity of head injuries, the researchers will gauge the survivability of the crash. High-speed cameras record the event.
I'm gonna turn it. Looks like we've had a head impact on the tray table here. See the evidence right there of what happened. Okay. Well, the restraints are intact. They didn't come loose. They look good.
Calculations based upon the numbers we acquire from those sensors gives us a predictor of the likelihood of injury had this been a real person. In this case, the larger dummy, the adult male, the number we got from his head impact indicated the likelihood of serious head injury was very low.
Specialists at the NASA Langley Research Center impact small airplanes in order to study their crashworthiness. Improved technology and better human skills are crucial in accident prevention. But it takes an airline to orchestrate both elements. Chicago's Midway Airport is the hub for Indianapolis-based American Transair.
You're arriving, destination, which is San Francisco, gate C2, which is the aircraft that just came in right now.
With 100 daily arrivals and departures from its hub, ATA is continuously training new ramp personnel.
I'm going to go over to B12, see a departure.
Every plane flies 12 to 15 hours per day. There are only 30 to 40-minute stops between loading and unloading the cargo, letting passengers in and out, changing the crew, and maintaining the aircraft. The ramp operation is an art of choreography.
If you notice, he's opening the door. You're going to start getting the belt loader. The belt loader's going to come over here. You're going to start working on it. All right, what do we got here? You got a transfer tag, right?
Yes, sir. Somebody has to be behind the jetway to see if it's clear.
Copy that, no problem.
This is the last thing the captain sees, right? This is the last thing we do. Show him the bypass pin, salute him, and he's off.
The ramp is so dangerous out there that we have to make sure that everyone is in their position when it gets in. If they're out of position, then we could have an incident where a bag cart is actually sucked into an engine.
ATA has a near-perfect safety record. One hard landing with no fatalities in its 27 years in business. One reason is its strong emphasis on aircraft maintenance.
See that either.
The airline opened its own school for mechanics.
You guys remember the Air Alaska crash? That was an MD-80. The same type of jack screw or similar to it. That Air Alaska flight, what happened was the bearings on this roller were not greased properly, or they skipped an inspection, part of the A-check. Check the mount.
Lose control of the airplane? Is that what they did?
They lost complete control of the airplane as you couldn't move that elevator.
Initially trained on small planes, the graduates will be taking care of ATA's jetliners. ATA operates one of the oldest fleets in the industry. Half of their planes are between 18 and 25 years old. Their fleet of 19 Lockheed 1011s is the largest of any airline.
Here you can see that we've opened up the cargo door and we've gone inside to inspect inside the cargo bay behind the fire retardant lining to see how the systems are working inside that area. Over here you can see that we've opened up the top of this engine. It's called the pylon, and we're looking at the air ducts and the controls that run down there into the engine to see what kind of service they're in. We've also opened up the leading edge of this wing so that we can look at the ducts that run down the wing and the wiring and the cables that run there to see what kind of condition they're in. Here in this panel are all the connections for where the engine and the airplane meet. We're going to look inside here to make sure that everything is in the right position, that we don't have any leaks, that there's no chafing on the wire. We're also going to look out through the pylon here where they run down on top of the engine.
In the 70s, these wide-body jets were considered the most advanced of their time. The government does not limit the age of commercial aircraft. They simply must meet FAA safety standards. And since the L-1011's design is still impressive, it makes sense to essentially rebuild the aircraft every 3 to 5 years.
This is the front part of an engine that was found during one of our inspections to have damage. We've now cut the damage out and we're getting ready to replace this damage with a new piece.
Mechanical problem in San Francisco on 190.
Delays are every airline's headache. Last year, a quarter of all flights nationwide were delayed.
778 in Cleveland has a flap lockout problem. He has done a gate turn back. He's already approaching 2 hours delay.
When a congested airport pairs with bad weather, it has a domino effect on airline operations.
Our morning has started off rough with LaGuardia again. Over the last couple of months, we continue to have problems with overcapacity at LaGuardia, and combined with that with low ceilings and weather.
I don't think cancellation is really an option. I think the loads are too high for us to look at cancellations presently.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to stay with the delays, obviously, with an 89% load factor. There's no way we're going to be able to cancel.
Rebuilding the normal flying schedule following a disruption can be a challenge. With air travel booming, airports are critical to aviation safety. Larger aircraft put more weight on runways, causing deterioration of surfaces and danger of accidents. When the super heavy Boeing 777 was introduced, the FAA created a unique testing facility at its Atlantic City Tech Center. At a cost of $15 million, a test vehicle weighing over 1 million pounds was built. It can apply hydraulic loads of 75,000 pounds on each of its 12 wheels. Different asphalt and concrete surfaces are tested and measured by over 1,000 sensors.
We'll be stopped about 10 feet into the rubber ramp.
The results are shared with runway designers and airports accepting heavy aircraft. In Oklahoma City, the FAA has a fleet of 33 aircraft policing the world's airports. Today's destination is Tulsa, Oklahoma. First, they check the strength of the airport's navigational aid signal. Then, flying as low as 50 feet over the runway, they evaluate the airport's guidance system, which helps pilots land in adverse weather conditions. In a year, 20,000 flight hours are spent inspecting airport standards.
Flights look good, Tower. You can secure them. Okay, stand by for your marks.
When conditions are not met, a runway could be closed until standards improve.
Pause and rig. You're up. You're up. -5. I got the yoke. Your yoke. 90.
Watching over pilots is another task of the government. In a simulated control tower at the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City, new air traffic controllers are being trained.
Taxiway Hotel.
Right, cleared for takeoff.
United 802 Heavy, hold short of Taxiway Alpha.
After spending 178 hours in the tower, these recruits will join a small army of 18,000 controlling American airspace.
25 Alpha Bravo Academy ground, taxi to runway 28 right.
How close is he
It's close.
to the point of crossing? And who would be there first? If you told you not in the taxi without delay, would he get there before the Falcon?
He or she must be able to plan ahead, to think of the next scenario. What else do I have to say? Because the control instruction the controller is saying now is old news.
Seneca 4359 Yankee runway 28 right, cleared for takeoff.
Where's the King Air? Where's the Tomahawk?
The King Air is back here. That's the Tomahawk.
So what's the King Air going to do to the Tomahawk?
He's going to run him over.
So start telling them about each other.
Crossing complete at Bravo. Runway 16 at Bravo.
Delta 40, speed 250.
Some of the new controllers will work at facilities called TRACON, tracking en route traffic.
Cactus 43, 300, roger.
Up to 6,000 commercial aircraft fly in American airspace at any given moment.
Northwest 91, reduce your speed to 250 knots.
The world's flying space, with its vertical and horizontal corridors, has been divided between these radar installations.
Maintain 11,000 because
The key word is spacing.
48, maintain 310 knots for intra spacing. The Delta's a little bit closer to the second one in line, so I've reduced it to 280 to increase my spacing for number 3.
Throughout its entire flight path, the plane is passed from one air traffic controller to another until the destination tower guides the pilot to landing. But radar controllers cannot always guarantee air safety. This was dramatized by the wave of sky terrorism that started in the 70s and intensified over the next decades. The face of a TWA captain held at gunpoint by a terrorist in Beirut became a symbol of danger for commercial aviation. In the mid-70s, X-ray machines were installed at U.S. airports to detect the shape of objects inside a suitcase.
Ma'am, is this your bag? You mind if I rerun it?
In the mid-90s, the government created new standards for screening and supplied airports with some 2,000 improved machines. Have you ever wondered what happened to your suitcase lost in travel and unclaimed? It landed at this Atlantic City warehouse. Here, Dr. Eric Niederman, who runs the FAA Security Lab, plants various threats in randomly chosen pieces of luggage. All of this is a secret to a team of screeners who will join him in his study of how effective the current screening machines are.
This is a simulated pipe bomb.
Today's suitcase, with its maze of densely packed electronics, creates new challenges for screeners.
I don't know what this is. It's pretty dark. It looks like it has 3 things, maybe a battery or something.
There's some shoes here, boots, and next to one of the boots there appears to be something with a lot of wires wrapped around it, and it's very dense because it's blue.
The orange in the background represents organic materials. Now an explosive would generally come up as very dark, very dense organic, and so it would be a very deep orange block. The blues and greens represent metals, and the denser or more metallic an object is, it becomes darker until it almost becomes black.
Pair of glasses.
There's more pipes and oil filters and what looks like auto parts.
Let's see what we have.
Yep.
Here's one pipe.
It obviously isn't an explosive. You would usually see wires and a very small initiator that would be somewhere in the center of the explosive.
The screeners must have skills of object recognition, attention to details, information processing, and decision making.
Does that bag look all right?
Well, what's that? It's the color of those, but...
Right, good eye. That looks like it could be a knife. But what makes it hard to see is the outline of the bag has a metal frame, and the knife is in the middle, near the metal frame. Wow.
Good eye.
Okay, stop that bag. Now, do you see anything in there that looks unusual? See this? This dark area in the center?
What's that?
That's most likely an improvised explosive device or a bomb. Now you can see inserted into it, into the center, is the detonator. And attached to the detonator are wires that run into the watch, which is over here.
Okay.
And you can see the electronics in the watch, and then you can see the battery, which is the power source. Aha! I can try to pull this apart and see what's in here. Okay, what you have is an explosive. This is what you saw as being very dense and packed. This is a simulated explosive, and it's in one shoe, and it has a detonator that's inserted into it to initiate the larger charge. And then in here is a watch that serves as a timer and a battery to give it power to explode. Yep,
right there.
Improved screening technology can keep terrorists at bay. But what if they manage to avoid this gate, as tragically happened in 1996 at an airport in Ethiopia? A couple, honeymooning on the Camaros Islands, turned their camcorder to the Indian Ocean. Hours earlier, the Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 767 had been hijacked and ordered to fly to Australia. When it ran out of fuel, it hit the water at 180 miles per hour. 120 people were killed, making it the bloodiest hijacking in aviation history. In the never-ending effort to thwart the threat of terrorism, researchers at the FAA enlist new technologies.
The idea behind this portal, it blows air on the front and back of me, and these puffers will blow on me to dislodge any particles, and if there's any explosive particles, they're collected at the bottom of this portal.
To test prototypes of new security portals, people are planted with traces of bomb-making materials and explosive devices. This portal analyzes the passenger's body heat.
This individual was contaminated, and when he stands in the portal, due to his metabolic heat that comes off of his body, the heat rises. This is called a thermal convection plume, and it rises above his head and is analyzed above his head in a screen. You'll see this individual's being collected now by this portal. He is stepping out now, and you'll see that explosives have been detected by this portal.
Safety doesn't come cheap. The cost of this machine, $150,000.
The explosives are detected. Okay.
This new technology has the potential of being applied at the aircraft entrance, further tightening security. When emergencies arise on board, passenger safety is in the hands of the flight attendants. Airline training prepares them for the worst. Tulai Harris, 27 years of flying and 7 million miles under her belt, trains flight attendants at ATA.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Greg, go get the AED Go kit, inform the flight deck, make a medical clear.
Long gone are the days when they had to be tall, slim, unmarried, and female.
Are you okay? Are you okay? He is giving you no response.
I'm going to lift his chin. I'm going to look, listen, and feel for breath.
Although travel adventure is still the main motivation, serious safety skills are required.
First one went in. I know he's clear.
Mike, please help this person. He's coughing. He's turning blue.
Are you choking? I know the Heimlich. I can help.
My baby's, I think, is choking.
I know the Heimlich. It's all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
In the last 2 years, Automated reanimation equipment has become part of the training.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and...
2 months after the V-22 Osprey arrived in Iraq, the revolutionary but controversial aircraft is assigned to carry troops into combat. The squadron has been ordered to prepare for assault missions, to carry teams of Marine infantry forces on the offense into the vast deserts of western Iraq's Anbar province. It's a brutal region made famous by the Battle of Fallujah. Some see it as the crucible of U.S. efforts in Iraq. Osprey Crew Chief Joshua DeBoer knows all too well how bad it's been and how valuable the Osprey can be. He first served in Iraq in 2004, flying as a crew chief in a CH-46 Sea Knight Frog helicopter, the Osprey's predecessor. In the Battle of Fallujah, DeBoer was in the lead chopper returning to base after dropping off troops when his helicopter came under attack from rocket-propelled grenades.
Just south of Fallujah there, we took RPG fire, and one of the RPGs hit us. Took out one engine, our electric power, and our hydraulic power all in one shot. So we didn't have a lot to work with, needless to say.
DeBoer and another Marine were in the back of the Frog, flying at about 100 feet off the ground. The pilots decided to try to make it back on one engine, but then fire broke out in the back of the helicopter.
We tried to put it out. We couldn't put it out. Meanwhile, the entire time, the fire's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
With the flames now wrapping around them, DeBoer and his partner were trapped.
I'm guessing between 20 and 50 feet, my other crew chief probably jumped out of the aircraft while we were still in the air. We hit the ground. The impact threw me into the cockpit face first, smashing my face against the instrument panel.
The helicopter crashed and burned. Amazingly, everyone on board escaped alive, although several with serious injuries, including DeBoer.
30% of my body was second-degree burns and lacerations to my face. You can actually see my skull in a couple of spots. It was kind of cool.
His trip to hell and back taught him one big lesson, that it is better to fly high and fast, as in the Osprey, and stay far away from ground fire.
I feel safer flying faster and higher in this aircraft than I do at 200 feet and half the speed is what we do now. I do not fear for my life anytime I fly, so.
As they prepare for their new missions, the pilots and crew chiefs gather in their ready rooms, top-secret, high-tech centers lined with maps of the region and equipped with sophisticated computer programs. Here they plan every moment of the missions they face, every corner of the terrain over which they will fly, and every challenge they will encounter. As both a pilot and a ground forces commander, Major Bob Brody has considerable experience in the Anbar region. He thinks the Osprey is a particularly good fit for this battle space.
It has some unique capabilities to land in desert terrain that would be very difficult for a helicopter to land in, which is going to enable Marines to get into places that we couldn't get into before. I think if we maintain flexibility and can go after very small targets very quickly, what we do is we deny the enemy the ability to maneuver. And we interdict them, we disrupt them to the point where they can't mass and they cannot attack us.
For the first time, the Osprey will face a tactical mission. The big moment is here. 6 other aircraft will join the Ospreys on the missions. With 24 hours to go, all aircraft and infantry commanders converge to finalize exact logistics and what role each of them will play.
Gentlemen, I think you all know me, Jimmy Brody, Austin fans. Here's obviously for our planning preparation for this thing.
This is a very complex mission in comparison to what we used to be doing. So I think that it's going to require that everyone's on their A game tomorrow above and beyond what we used to.
There are still plenty of ground commanders who remain skeptical and worry about putting their troops aboard such a controversial aircraft. One of their major concerns, the Ospreys lack the ability to auto-rotate, an emergency maneuver executed by helicopter pilots if their engines fail. In auto-rotation, a pilot uses downdraft to get the rotors spinning as fast as possible to regain control of an aircraft and soften a crash landing. Because of its different design, the Osprey can't do this maneuver. But the team is confident they don't need auto-rotation. With its awesome horsepower, the Osprey can fly on one of its two engines in an emergency.
And the chances of having two engines stop working at the same time are minuscule.
I can't imagine both engines, receiving battle damage at the same time. If both engines are shot up, you probably have other issues, and auto rotation is probably the last thing you're going to have to think about.
But there are other problems. In part because of its speed, one of the real challenges will be how to fly the Osprey at safe distances from other aircraft. Deconfliction, or keeping space between all the aircraft on the missions to avoid collisions, is an object of concern.
Deconfliction and working and operating around other aircraft, it's a serious business. It's honestly a meeting of the minds. It's a roundtable discussion, figuring out where assets need to be, and that is the next step. You can deconflict by altitude, by time, or by lateral, just by slapping a boundary down. Hey, you own this side, I own that side.
This aerial ballet, and which is what it's going to work out to be tomorrow. And I know we'll do well, but just remember that the reason we're out there is to hit, dig, disrupt, and conduct, scouting and screening. And I think we're going to learn a lot.
The moment of truth is fast approaching. Tensions are high. It has taken decades to get to this point, but the squadron knows the morning will come quickly. Dawn breaks over the desert sands of Anbar province, casting first light on Al-Assad Air Base, the second largest military operation in Iraq. In hangars along a helicopter flight line, members of a squadron known as the Thunder Chickens have been working through the night to ensure that 10 Osprey aircraft are in top shape. After decades of development, years of testing and training, after 2 months of preparation, the day of reckoning has arrived. This is the day that Osprey pilots and crews will, for the first time, take to the skies to fly ground forces on a combat mission.
I don't know if you call it nervousness or just anxiousness, but yeah, there's always a little bit of butterflies before each mission.
Boarding one of the Ospreys, Major Bob Brody, a veteran pilot and a ground forces commander, introduces the grunts to the aircraft. Most of them are seeing it up close for the first time.
I got a very important question. Where are the armrests? Right here.
Those of you that have not ridden on this aircraft, it is a sporty ride, and it's much different than on the 53. 53 kind of comes down. When it goes forward, it kind of leans forward. This is an airplane for all intents and purposes. So when they pull out of that zone, you're going to feel a lot of acceleration. So here's the last thing, gents. Obviously, everything goes sour on us and we need to start fighting. You just take care of business and don't worry about anything. All right, you just start taking care of that target.
This is an aircraft unlike anything they've flown in before.
Again, I can't overemphasize the acceleration and deceleration. All right, we're going to accelerate, rather rapidly. So make sure you grab on everything that you've got. Okay, try to strap it in. You guys definitely need to be strapped in, especially guys in the back.
To the Iraqi armed forces joining them on the mission, it's total future shock. They've never seen anything like this.
This is our newest airplane that we're flying in over here. It's a Salt Sport aircraft mounted.
Their first missions will take 2 days of flying. Three Ospreys head out across the vast landscape, joined by a Huey attack helicopter and a Super Cobra gunship. Their destination is 34 miles to the northeast, an area codenamed RSA. On day one, their target is a village, codenamed Buccaneers. Intelligence reports have determined it is a regular rest stop for insurgents infiltrating Iraq to bolster enemy forces. The Marines need to cut them off at the pass. The Ospreys are flying more than 40 Marines into the village so they can make contact with leaders of the local community and demonstrate a show of strength. They plan to go door to door in search of suspects. But first they must get there safely. Armed with Hellfire missiles, rockets, and heavy-duty machine guns, the Huey and the Cobra carry the firepower to act as escorts for the mission. As they head to their first destination, the Ospreys fly high to stay out of range of any surface-to-air missiles or rocket launchers until the last moment. The Cobra and the Huey are the first to fly down close to the village, spotting the safest and most efficient landing zone for the Osprey to drop down and unload the troops. On board the low-flying Huey, a door gunner prepares a smoke flare signal, tossing it out of his helicopter to mark the best location for the Ospreys to land. In moments, the Ospreys swoop down, descending first in plane mode. Then rotating their nacelles, the equipment that changes them from planes into helicopters, they make the final descent. As they land, the environment fights back. Like any helicopter landing in this desert, the Osprey's giant blades stir up a blizzard of flying sand and dust. It is the type of situation that can turn deadly. It can blind or disorient pilots and the crews guiding them down. But the Osprey has a sophisticated computerized control system that comes to the rescue. For the hover couple, the system links with an onboard global positioning system, or GPS, to automatically read the plane's position and height and help land the aircraft for the pilot. Once safely on the ground, the Osprey pilots have another technical advantage. Thick sand wraps around them and threatens to blind the ground troops as they disembark. The pilots engage the nacelles to blow away the sandstorm. Once it's clear, the Marines' infantry forces hit the ground quickly, fanning out around the village. They will stay on here as the Ospreys again take to the skies and return to base. Security in Anbar province has improved enormously since the first Marines arrived here in 2004. But the enemy is still a serious threat in this region. Sending the squadron on these missions, the commanding general of Al-Assad is determined to turn the tables.
There's still an active enemy out there, but we maintain a high operational tempo in support of all the actions here in order to keep continuous pressure on it. We want Al-Anbar to be a dangerous place for a foreign fighter or for an insurgent.
Trying to cover this vast region by ground alone would be impossible. Distances the Osprey can cover in minutes could take hours. And here, the Osprey also outstrips helicopters. The Osprey's strengths, speeds of more than 300 miles an hour and range of more than 1,000 miles without refueling, come into play. It may fly at the speed of a plane, yet it can land at locations no plane can approach. Day 2 of their first ground combat missions begins. They're flying more than 40 infantry troops to the far west of the war zone to scour the border of Iraq and Syria. This is notorious territory. It has been a well-known route for smugglers and bandits for centuries. Today, insurgents are coming this way. This operation includes a small armada of aircraft. Their targets are a multitude of hiding places, visible only from above. Distant side roads, ravines, wadis or dried-up riverbeds, and even small caves. Huey and Cobra pilots flying escort lead the search. The Ospreys stay high until a Cobra pilot spots a cave they will seek. Intelligence reports have indicated this could be a storage location for a cache of weapons and explosives being smuggled across the country. Once again, it's time for the Ospreys to bring in the infantry. Once again, the troops hit the ground. The Ospreys wait while the infantry forces close in on the cave. But it's a dry hole. If it has been used as a weapons storage facility, it's now been emptied. Frustrated, the infantry forces return to the Ospreys, that again take to the air to continue the search. With so many aircraft, the challenges that the mission commanders and pilots studied so closely in their planning are always present. The question of deconfliction, avoiding crashing into each other like the planes in the tragic mission into Iran a quarter of a century ago. Out here, it's no longer history, it's the real thing. Throughout the day, they fly up and down the border, smoothly integrating with other aircraft. As they return to base, it's been 2 days of combat operations. And it's been a long 2 days. For the pilots, it's been tough flying. For the crews, it's been an exhausting mission. They have faced several tough tests. But the men, women, and the aircraft have met them all. Despite coming up empty-handed against the unseen enemy, despite the hardships, it's been a smooth operation. The Ospreys have proved they are ready for combat. They can get troops where they need to go. They can do it in the toughest environment. And all along, the Osprey's technology has proved vitally important. The aircraft that some claim could be a disaster in a war zone like Iraq, simply performing smoothly and without incident, has become a benchmark of success. These Ospreys have risen to the challenge, proving that their attributes far outweigh their past failures, most of which are now more than a decade old. The men and women of the squadron feel good about what they have done, but they will soon get a report card from their ultimate authority in person. Daily life in Iraq is no day at the beach, but for the squadron known as the Thunder Chickens, it has its moments. On the Osprey's windswept flight line, Captain Michael Parrott has just returned from his first mission flying as the commander of his aircraft. And his support team has a ceremony awaiting him, a type of military baptism to celebrate the moment.
So it was an eventful day. My first flight as an aircraft commander in the V-22. This is the perfect ending to a perfect day.
Oh, very nice!
All right.
Oh, God, you off me!
A day to remember, with friends and in a career. But a new day brings another, more dignified ceremony. The arrival of the Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, General James T. Conway. He has come here to see Osprey operations on the front line firsthand.
Bless you for what you do. Keep doing it. Keep on doing it, boys. It is revolutionary across the entirety of the world. And we're just excited to see you guys and gals continue to prove this thing.
He likes what he sees. He says the Osprey is making history, that the Osprey represents the future, not just here, but around the world. Well, the aircraft's introduction to the battle zone has been incremental. Its advocates say its future is unlimited.
It is a superior aircraft that is going to support Marine Corps aviations and take us to places that we don't even know about yet, I don't think.
I won't say this is the future of the Marine Corps, but the concept, to me, is the future of all aviation.
While this feels familiar because some of us have been to Iraq before, all new experiences and all new mission planning, and all, you know, everything is somewhat new. It has an old flavor and feel to it, but it's all new.
That's what these pilots hope for. A new day and a new chance for an aircraft they say deserves both.
There's definitely an evolution that the aircraft is going to have to go through in order to be used to its full potential.
You know, it's all about just trying to find out how to leverage the capabilities that each one can bring to best effect. Carry more, go faster, go farther. Those are all kind of raw capabilities. You only find out what the aircraft can do when it's stretched by people asking it to do things.
I think we're doing the job for people as they get more comfortable with us, as they get more interaction with us, as we get integrated, they're falling in love with the airframe.
It has taken a quarter of a century of tough challenges to bring the Osprey V-22 tiltrotor aircraft to this distant battlefield for the first time. It's been an arduous journey, but its advocates insist it's only the beginning.